You know, there's something we all do every day without a second thought. Feels totally harmless. But what if I told you it's silently damaging your brain, eroding your sharpness? If you're over 60 or eyeing your golden years, and you've been forgetting names, losing keys, or repeating questions, lean in. These aren't just senior moments, friend. This innocent daily habit ignites brain inflammation, harming nerve cells, leading to memory lapses and fog. Nobody talks about it. Doctors are too rushed. But I've seen it countless times. Today, I'll reveal 10 common habits sabotaging your brain health. Plus, simple, free fixes to start now, protecting your mind, boosting memory, and thriving in your 60s, 70s, beyond. I've helped folks like Arthur, the accountant who dismissed forgetfulness as aging. His turnaround? A game changer you'll hear soon. Before we dive in, if this hits home, comment yes below. It shows me you get it and reminds others they're not alone. Let's start. Habit number 1. Sitting too long. The silent sitter. You know, I often think about Arthur, a wonderful man, a retired accountant who was 68 when he first came to see me. He'd spend countless hours in his favorite armchair, just going over old bills, catching the news, or maybe playing chess on his tablet. He'd look at me, a little sheepish, and say, "Doc, my whole life, my work was sitting down, and it still is. I don't know how to stay still, but I also don't know how to get moving." He'd chuckle, but I could see the truth in his eyes. He spent pretty much all day sitting, and he genuinely wondered, but that can't really hurt my brain, can it? So, what's the fix? It's simpler than you might think. Don't just sit there. Get up. Set an alarm on your watch or phone every 30 minutes. When it buzzes, stand up, give a good stretch, and take a few steps, even if it's just around your living room or to the kitchen and back. Movement isn't just about activating your muscles. It restarts cerebral blood flow, wakes up your dopamine, that feel-good chemical in your brain, and sharpens your memory. It's like opening the windows and letting fresh air pour into a stuffy room. Arthur was skeptical at first, but after just 2 weeks of making these small shifts, he came back with a different look on his face. It would be truly interesting if you'd share in the comments. Do you often sit for long periods without moving? We'd love to hear your experience. Habit number 2. Sleeping less to do more. The sleep robber. You know, there's a curious thing I often hear in my practice. Folks, usually in their 60s and 70s, will come in, sit down, and with a proud smile tell me, "Doctor, I don't need much sleep. I go to bed late and wake up early to make the most of the day." They say it with such pride, almost like it's a badge of honor, a sign of strength or discipline. But every time I hear those words, I take a deep breath. Because behind that seemingly harmless habit lies one of the most silent causes of cognitive decline I see daily. Sleep, that precious time many consider wasted, is actually the most powerful investment you can make for keeping your brain young and functional. When we cut back on sleep hours, especially those crucial deep sleep and REM phases in the second half of the night, our brain misses its daily cleanup opportunity. Imagine this. Your brain has a fascinating system called the glymphatic system, which activates a drainage network during rest. The power of restorative sleep is truly incredible. When Carol embraced a simple slow-down routine, morning light exposure, a light dinner, no screens an hour before bed, and slow breathing, she came back excited. "I sleep more, but above all, I sleep better. I wake up with a lighter head and remember more things from the day before." The scientific evidence is crystal clear. During deep sleep, your brain reorganizes memories, eliminates toxins, stabilizes mood, and strengthens neuronal connections. Depriving it of this process is like shutting down your computer without saving your work. Sooner or later, something gets corrupted. Habit number 3. Relying too much on caffeine, the false energizer. Ah, the aroma of freshly brewed coffee, right? There's just something special about it, almost therapeutic. That first warm sip, with its gentle bitterness, feels like a soft caress upon waking. For years, even I considered it an untouchable ritual, an innocent habit that seemed to make long hospital mornings a little more bearable. But after decades of caring for brains, I've learned something few want to hear. Excessive caffeine can be a silent saboteur of memory and mental balance. Caffeine isn't bad in itself. It's a natural stimulant. It wakes up your cerebral cortex, blocks adenosine, a molecule that signals tiredness, and makes you feel alert. The real problem isn't the coffee itself, but the dose and the timing. What starts as a gentle push can quickly turn into constant tension for your nervous system. Over time, that artificial awakening accelerates your body's stress response, raises your cortisol levels, and throws off the natural rhythm of your brain waves. This is especially tough on an older brain, which tends to be more sensitive to stimulants and takes longer to clear them from its system. I told Frank gently, excessive caffeine doesn't just exhaust your nervous system. It alters your sleep architecture, and sleep is where your brain files away memories. It also interferes with acetylcholine, a crucial neurotransmitter for memory and attention. That's why some patients tell me, "Doctor, I read and don't retain." So, what's the solution? We started Frank on a simple experiment. 1 cup in the morning before 10 a.m., and then caffeine-free herbal infusions or lemon water for the rest of the day. Nothing drastic, just observe. 10 days later, he came back, surprised. "Doctor, I'm sleeping better, and I don't have that brain fog in the afternoons anymore. The strangest thing is, I don't even miss the coffee." I smiled and said, "That's no coincidence, Frank. Your nervous system is breathing again. When we reduce caffeine, the body recovers its natural sensitivity to energy. The brain stops depending on external stimulants and starts regulating its own rhythm. And that rhythm, for people over 60, is gold. It improves focus, stabilizes mood, and protects neurons from inflammation. Habit number 4. A poor diet, ultra-processed foods, and excessive spicy meals. I clearly remember the first time I met Robert, a 68-year-old man with a mix of frustration and tiredness in his gaze. "Doctor," he said as he walked in, "I gave up sodas. I'm trying to walk more, but I still feel foggy in the afternoons. I struggle to connect ideas. Sometimes I talk and can't find the word I want to say. It drives me crazy." His tone wasn't resignation. It was pure bewilderment. He thought he was doing everything right, but his mind just wasn't responding like it used to. Robert listened attentively, his brow furrowed. "Doctor, I never thought about it that way. I thought what I ate only affected my stomach, not my brain." I responded, "What you eat is the raw material for your thoughts. If you feed your body inflammation, you also inflame your mind. Recent studies have consistently shown that diets high in ultra-processed foods are directly linked to a higher risk of cognitive decline, depression, and long-term memory loss. This isn't by chance. It's because they alter your gut microbiota, and with it, the neurotransmitters that regulate mood and focus. When your gut is inflamed, your brain is inflamed. So, here's what you can do. We proposed a gradual change for Robert, not a strict diet or prohibitions, just replacing step by step what was harming him. Swap deli meats for grilled chicken or fish. Replace packaged snacks with a handful of walnuts or almonds. Cut back on strong spices to a couple of times a week. Add green leafy vegetables, avocado, and berries every day. Eating simply doesn't mean getting bored, I told him. It means giving your brain what it really needs to function. He agreed to try it. And when he returned 3 weeks later, he looked different. "Doctor," he said, smiling, "I don't just feel better physically. I feel like myself again. Clearer, more stable, less irritable." There were no new medications, no expensive supplements, just a change in the chemical messages sent to his brain through food. What are your thoughts on the connection between food and the mind? Please share your healthy eating tips in the comments below. Habit number 5. Exposure to secondhand smoke. The invisible thief. A few weeks after my conversation with Robert, I was in the office reviewing notes when a familiar smell pulled me out of focus. It was that sour, persistent odor that clings to clothes and walls. It came from the waiting room. I peeked out and saw an older man accompanying his wife. His jacket smelled of tobacco. And in that moment, I thought, you don't need to light a cigarette for the smoke to make you sick. What George didn't know, and many don't, is that your brain is one of the most sensitive organs to environmental toxins. Every cigarette releases over 7,000 chemical compounds. Many travel through the air, stick to clothes, and end up in the lungs of those nearby. And those compounds, though invisible, have real, measurable effects. Even passive exposure to smoke can narrow your blood vessels, reduce available oxygen, and keep your body in a state of low-grade inflammation. This is particularly concerning for older adults, whose cardiovascular systems may already be less robust than they once were. That silent, constant inflammation reaches your hippocampus, the brain area that regulates memory and learning. There, neurons work like tireless messengers, transmitting information in milliseconds. But when the environment is filled with toxins, those connections weaken, become slower, less precise. In an aging brain, that small interference accumulates over the years, and synaptic plasticity, the ability to learn, adapt, and remember, erodes. It's as if the smoke gradually dims the lights of a city that once shone with energy. George told me, "I feel slow, like my thoughts get stuck." This is a direct consequence. I didn't judge him. I just proposed an alternative. What if the next game is at your house? You can set some simple rules. No smoking indoors. That way, you can still enjoy your group without exposing your brain. Have you noticed how secondhand smoke affects your concentration? Please share your thoughts below. Habit number 6. The silent postponement. Ignoring your brain's early signals. You know, I've noticed something over the years. Most people aren't afraid of getting sick. They're afraid of finding out in time. That's why every day I see more people who prefer to look the other way when their body starts sending signals. Oh, it was just a lapse. It must be tiredness. It'll probably pass. Small phrases that hide a big problem, postponing the obvious. It's one of the most harmful habits for your brain, and yet one of the most common. I call it the habit of silent postponement. It doesn't hurt, but it consumes memory, clarity, and mental energy with almost surgical precision. At the next visit, she returned with a notebook in hand. "I noticed something," she said. "On days I sleep less, I make more mistakes. When I argue with my son, I can't focus. And when I eat lunch late, I forget what I was going to do." That notebook was her mirror. For the first time in months, her brain and she were in dialogue. That's the point. It's not about having no lapses, but not letting lapses become routine. Ignoring signals is like leaving a crack in a wall, small at first, maybe invisible, but one day it splits the wall. Every forgotten word, every lapse, every feeling of confusion is an amber traffic light. And every time you ignore it, your brain learns it's not worth warning you, until the day it decides to stay silent, and by then, it's too late. That's why I insist so much on early observation. It's not an obsession. It's biological wisdom. Listening to your body isn't a weakness. It's a strategy. Your brain, when it feels attended to, cooperates. When it feels ignored, it protects itself, and in doing so, it shuts down. What signals has your body been sending that you might have been ignoring? Please let us know in the comments. Before we move on, I want to remind everyone listening that subscribing to our channel will give you access to this vital information. Let's continue. Habit number 7, belly fat, the hidden inflammer. It was early. The light in my office barely filtered through the window, and in front of me was David, 64 years old, with the same gesture I see in so many men his age. A hand on his abdomen, a shy smile, and a phrase that's almost always the same. "Doctor, I know I've gained some belly, but how much harm can it really do?" His tone was carefree, like someone talking about a minor issue. I looked him in the eyes and responded directly, "More than you imagine, David. Much more." I didn't say it to scare him, but because it's true. The good news? You don't need to lose 40 or 60 pounds to see real changes. A mere 5% reduction in body weight has already been shown to improve blood pressure, glucose, insulin levels, and cognitive function. It's not about becoming an athlete, it's about lowering the internal noise so your brain can hear itself again. We started David with something minimal, almost symbolic. A 15 to 20-minute walk at dawn, water instead of sodas, an extra serving of vegetables at dinner, adequate protein, and a 12-hour overnight fasting window when possible. Your waist tells a story. And when you reclaim it, you don't just lose inches, you recover balance. Because abdominal fat isn't just physical weight, it's chemical weight. The more it accumulates, the cloudier the signal between body and mind becomes. Cerebral circulation becomes sluggish, attention shortens, and immediate memory weakens. Is belly fat a silent signal for you? Please share your journey below. Habit number 8, unmanaged chronic stress, the silent burnout. Of everything we've talked about, sleep, habits, diet, movement, there's one factor almost everyone underestimates. And yet, it's probably the most powerful force shaping your brain: stress. That word is repeated so often it's lost its weight. Everyone thinks they understand it. Few measure it. Among them, I especially remember Michael, 69 years old. Elegant, punctual, outwardly calm. At first glance, no one would say his brain was slowly collapsing under the weight of stress. He had a kind gesture, steady hands, and serene speech. Only his eyes betrayed something deeper, that dim shine left by accumulated emotional fatigue. "Doctor," he told me, "I don't talk about stress. I push forward. I don't complain." He said it like it was a medal. And I understand. He belongs to a generation taught to endure, not to bother, to be the rock, to confuse strength with silence. Dealing with stress isn't just about feeling pressure, it's about losing flexibility. When everything makes you tense, even your thoughts become rigid. So, what's the game plan? We didn't start with medications for Michael. We started with slow breathing, 10 minutes a day. Inhale for 4 seconds. Exhale for 6 to 8. It wasn't an exercise, it was a way to remind his brain that the danger had passed. Then, walking at dawn. Not for sport, but for biology. Morning light resets circadian rhythms, balances cortisol, and releases natural dopamine. I asked him to do it without a phone, without earphones, just him, the air, and his breathing. I also proposed something more intimate. Write 1 page a week, not about what he did, but about what he felt. At first, he resisted. "Doctor, I'm not into that stuff. What's your favorite way to unwind from stress?" Please share your de-stressing tips in the comments below. Habit number 9. Too much red and processed meats. The inflammatory meal. The smell of barbecue filled the room before I even crossed the door. It was Thomas's 70th birthday. A patient and friend of many years, he'd invited me to his family meal. "Doctor, you're not going to say no. Today, we break the diet," he joked, laughing as he offered me a steaming plate. I couldn't help but smile. The table was full of deli meats, chorizos, well-seared red meat, and just a few lettuce leaves to pretend. It was a scene I've seen hundreds of times. Celebration turned into habitual excess. Thomas listened attentively. "But doctor, I don't have high cholesterol." "I know," I said, "but that doesn't tell the whole story." Inflammation is silent. And the truth is that processed foods like deli meats and cured meats are full of nitrites, sodium, and oxidized fats, which not only affect the heart, but also the brain synapses, those small connections where thought happens. In recent studies, people who eat more processed meats have a higher risk of cognitive decline, even without high cholesterol. The damage comes from chronic inflammation, not just fat. Thomas set his fork down on the plate and looked at me silently. "So, what do we eat, doctor? Just leaves?" "No," I replied. "It's not about banning anything, but balancing. Your body can handle an occasional excess. What destroys it is the habit." I told him about another patient who swapped just 2 weekly meals for fish and legumes, and in 3 months lowered his blood pressure, improved his mood, and started sleeping without interruptions. "And that helps memory too?" his wife asked from across the table. "More than you imagine," I replied. "Protein is necessary, but its source matters. Fish, eggs, or legumes have an anti-inflammatory impact." I proposed a 30-day challenge to Thomas. Reduce red meat to twice a week. Swap deli meats for avocado, hummus, or grilled chicken. Add green vegetables to every meal. Drink more water than beer or soda. He accepted without much enthusiasm, but promised to try. 2 months later, his change was visible. Don't eat to fill your stomach. Eat to ignite your mind. Meat isn't the enemy. Excess is, and especially processed products that the industry disguises as food, but your body interprets as a threat. Is meat a frequent part of your meals? Were you surprised by its impact on the brain? Let us know. Habit number 10. Skipping regular checkups. The ignored warning. Recently, Henry sat in front of me, 66 years old, elegant, proper, and clearly uncomfortable. Pressed shirt, impeccable watch, firm voice. But his eyes betrayed something else. "Doctor," he began, "I don't usually come to consultations. I've never been one for doctors, but lately I'm struggling to remember some things." He didn't say it with fear, but with annoyance. He was a man used to being in control, and admitting something was slipping out of his control bothered him deeply. "How long have you been like this?" I asked. "Over a year. I feel slower, less energetic. Sometimes my head feels heavy, like the day weighs more." His phrase hit me hard. Like the day weighs more. That's a perfect description of what many people with mild cognitive decline feel. It's not pure forgetfulness. It's a mental fatigue that drains every thought. Henry represented many men and women who arrived late, not out of neglect, but out of pride, fear, or shame. Some fear the diagnosis. Others think forgetting is normal. And most believe that as long as there's no pain, there's no urgency. Henry listened silently, nodding occasionally. When I mentioned hearing, he raised an eyebrow. My wife says I talk loudly, but I hear fine. That's what everyone who's already lost part of their hearing range says. We did a simple evaluation. His loss was moderate, but enough to demand extra effort from his brain every time someone spoke to him. We added small actions, a consistent sleep routine, 30-minute daily walks, 2 brief cognitive exercises, 15 minutes a day. I asked him to note his progress each week, not to measure perfection, but to track awareness. 3 months later, he returned different. Same elegance, but a new energy. Doctor, I feel more awake. I sleep better. That annual visit isn't a formality. It's a conversation with your own body. A reminder that mental health isn't protected by ignoring it, but by observing it with respect. I told him something before we parted. Your brain doesn't age because of years, Henry. It ages because of neglect. He nodded with a calm smile. I guess it was time to take it to the shop. Since then, every year Henry returns punctually, no longer with fear, but with pride. Because he understood that control isn't lost by asking for help. It's regained. As we wrap up, we've uncovered 10 game-changing habits for thriving in our golden years. But knowledge shines brightest in action. Now, what's your one commitment? Stand every 30 minutes? 7 hours of sleep tonight? Book that checkup? Share it in the comments below. Let's spark each other's first steps. If this inspired you, hit that thumbs up to spread the word. Subscribe to join our supportive community of vibrant living. Don't miss the next life-changing tips. Finally, share this with one loved one whose mind could use a boost. You might just transform their day. Thanks for watching. Stay healthy, stay sharp. See you next time.